I, a 32-year-old male, married my first wife, Olivia. Her name changed when she was 24 years old. We were quite young when we fell in love at that time. I believed she was the perfect woman for me, but as events unfolded, I realized how mistaken I was. Despite moments of what I thought was deep love, it became evident that she left me for a wealthy businessman, showing me her true intentions. My first memory of noticing Olivia isn't crystal clear. We grew up in the same small town and attended the same high school, though we didn't belong to the same friend circle back then. Olivia was one of the most beautiful girls at our school. While I was just a geeky kid, I never imagined having a chance with her. Fast forward a few years after graduating from university. I returned to our quiet hometown. I was about to start working at a veterinary clinic and had just moved into a new condo. Adjusting from the fast-paced city life to the tranquil town felt like a significant change. However, I was eager to reconnect with old friends and be closer to my family. A few nights after moving into my condo, I visited a downtown bar to hang out with old friends. I offered to buy drinks for everyone and approached the bar. As I got closer, I noticed the bartender had a familiar face. It took a moment to realize that the beautiful girl I used to see in high school hallways had grown into a woman. She asked me what drink I wanted, and in that moment, my heart raced and I felt like a nervous teenager all over again. My attempt to speak resulted in an awkward and stuttered response. Despite spending years in the city interacting with women, there was always something about Olivia that made me feel uneasy. "Did you go to Westbrook High?" Olivia asked as she poured drinks at that instant. I was utterly surprised. For all those years, I believed I was invisible to her. As the night continued, I kept buying rounds of drinks for the group as an excuse to chat with Olivia. Apart from reconnecting with my friends, I found another reason to stay at the bar that night. Olivia, whether it was the alcohol or Olivia's down-to-earth nature, I felt more at ease approaching her as the night progressed. Before closing, she asked for my phone and added her number. Over the next year, things went well. I was excelling at the clinic, earning good money, and was approved for a mortgage for my first house. Olivia and I started dating after that memorable night at the bar. On our first date, I knew she was the one I wanted to spend my life with. I proposed for 5 months into the relationship, and she accepted. Within a year, we were married, while my friends and family thought we were moving too quickly. I didn't care, the initial years of our marriage felt like a dream. I earned enough at the clinic to support us, though we weren't rich. Olivia left her bartending job after our marriage to focus on her art. This was surprising. As she hadn't shown an interest in art before, I still supported her decision. However, things changed when her old boss called her for part-time bartending work during a big corporate event. Olivia agreed, as the pay was excellent. Initially, I didn't worry, but as time passed, I began to feel that something was amiss. She started working late nights, and her schedule became irregular. She was staying out until the early morning hours, which raised my concerns. As time went by, I began to grow suspicious of Olivia's schedule. I used to leave for work at 8 a.m., and on most days she wasn't home until then. By the time I returned home, she was already gone, sometimes passing 4 or 5 days without seeing her. I asked her about her return time, and she mentioned 9 a.m., however, when I checked the CCTV footage, it showed her coming home around 12 p.m. in the afternoon. Oddly, she didn't appear tired, and there were no bars open during the morning hours, nor did they usually let the night shift employees continue working during the day. Though I had always been a trusting husband, something didn't feel right. In the 4th week, I decided to leave for work at 9 a.m. when she said she'd be home, yet she wasn't back by then, with doubts clouding my mind. I decided it was time to confront the situation. I headed to the hotel where she was staying. I picked up her favorite berry smoothie and a fresh croissant on the way. The plan was to drop them off at the bar where she worked. When I reached the hotel, a 5-star establishment were hosting the business summit. I discovered that Olivia's company was managing the bar services for the event. Upon arrival, I found the bar closed, doors locked, lights off, and silence prevailing. I inquired at the hotel reception about the bar's operating hours. The receptionist gave me an odd look for asking about the bar at 10 a.m. She informed me that the bar closed strictly at 1 a.m. I probed further, suggesting the possibility of extended hours due to the ongoing business summit, but her response was abrupt, stating that the bar indeed closed at 1 a.m. This strange response left me feeling uneasy. Before this moment, a nagging feeling in the back of my mind hinted that Olivia might be lying, though I didn't want to believe it. I texted Olivia, asking about her whereabouts. She claimed to be at the bar, so I sent her a picture of me in front of the closed bar, urging her to come out for a conversation. Olivia replied that she'd be home in an hour, despite having an important task at work. I was preoccupied with thoughts of her situation. I texted her not to leave the house until we could discuss matters further. After wrapping up my work, I rushed home. Upon reaching home, I saw Olivia's car in the driveway. An unsettling feeling took over as I entered the house. Walking through the door, I sensed that things were about to change, but what awaited me was far from what I expected. The atmosphere inside was different, although I typically didn't pay attention to small details, like Olivia doing something felt off in the kitchen. Olivia sat, appearing tense and uneasy, with those uneasy eyes of someone holding back unwelcome news. My attention shifted to the 3 packed suitcases behind her. At first, she remained silent, which only added to my discomfort. I couldn't tell if she struggled to find the right words or if she was waiting for me to speak first. Each second felt like an eternity as I questioned her about the suitcases. Then she began to cry, attempting to explain that an opportunity she couldn't ignore had come her way. She claimed she was leaving to pursue her dream. Her voice trembled, and she avoided eye contact, hinting that her words weren't the truth. My frustration grew, and I slammed my hand on the table, raising my voice. A departure from my usual mild temperament, being lied to by the person I trusted most, had triggered something in me in the midst of my frustration, she confessed. Yet part of me wishes I hadn't asked. As the pain of that moment remains vivid to this day, my wife was leaving me for a millionaire businessman she had met at the bar with someone residing upstate. 5 years have passed since then, and although it was undoubtedly a challenging period, the details are now irrelevant. I sold our house, moved to a better neighborhood, married a wonderful, ambitious woman named Kara, or even expected a baby. Life has taken a positive turn, and Olivia has become a distant memory. However, just a few days ago, Olivia reached out, expressing urgency in meeting, despite her persistent messages. I chose to ignore her attempts to contact me. The thing is, I don't want her back in my life, but I'm curious about this urgent matter. She wants to discuss what I should do, and honestly, I'm unsure if meeting her again is a good idea. After all, she did me quite wrong. She cheated on me with someone wealthy and left for money. Digging up the past might not be wise, but sometimes it's best to leave the past behind. Kara gave birth to our baby boy a few weeks ago, and we're adjusting to parenthood. Some of you suggested that Olivia might want to apologize, and I'm considering giving her the benefit of the doubt. I might agree to meet her for a coffee, so I arrived at the coffee shop and spotted her sitting in a booth waiting. A smile formed on her face as soon as she saw me. For a fleeting moment, I considered that maybe some of it were right and perhaps she wanted forgiveness. At first, she played it cool, engaging in small talk as people catching up after years would. However, I could tell she was up to her old tricks. She tried to move closer to me, seeking excuses to touch my hand. I kept my distance, rejecting her advances. She seemed to believe she could win me over, but I made it clear that wasn't happening. I backed away and told her to maintain her boundaries. I noticed her cheeks turning pink as she realized her attempts weren't working. She claimed she missed me, which I knew was untrue. She made the decision to leave our marriage the moment a wealthy man paid her any attention. Not once in the past 5 years has she attempted to contact me. That's when I decided to ask her about the reason behind her urgent meeting request. Tears welled up in her eyes for the first time. Seeing her in pain didn't make me feel bad, it was just a fraction of the emotional pain she had caused me when she left. She confessed that she knew she had betrayed me and that I was the only person she could turn to. Strangely, as much as I harbored resentment, I still cared for her as a person. It might sound odd, but a part of me didn't want to know the details of her situation involving me. I pressed her to get to the point where she began crying as she told me that she needed to borrow money, specifically $5,000. Her millionaire boyfriend hadn't put a ring on her finger, and when he found someone new, he left Olivia with nothing. It seemed that karma had caught up with her. I shouldn't have been surprised that this was the reason she wanted to meet. During our time together, I was blinded by love, but once she left, I realized the role I had played in her life when we were kids. She hadn't noticed me, but that night at the bar, she overheard my conversation with friends. She learned about my new job, my condo, and probably even the money I was making. She saw me as a means to an end, a man easily captivated by charm. I only realized all this after she left. I hadn't intended to lend her money, but I was intrigued, so I asked her to explain her situation. She shared her current circumstances. After her relationship fell apart, she returned, hoping to stay with her parents, not realizing they had sold their house and moved to a small apartment. Olivia needed the money to restart her life, rent an apartment, and cover expenses while working on a painting she hoped to sell to a trendy city gallery. Naturally, I asked if the gallery had shown interest, and she stumbled in her response. During our marriage, she spoke of focusing on art, but not once did she create anything. I had never seen any of her work. Olivia admitted she hadn't contacted the gallery and planned to create a painting to sell. Typical Olivia believing she could impress people just by existing, I denied her request immediately. I wasn't rude, nor did I voice the harsh thoughts in my head. I told her the truth, I had a new baby and a mortgage to pay off. I couldn't spare that much money. She tried to negotiate, asking for $3,000, but I held my ground. She went on to explain how she had nowhere to stay. The bar she used to work at had new management and didn't need her help. Whatever story she was spinning, I wasn't buying it. If she wanted to reinvent herself, she could do it with her own resources. I explained that I had supported her during our marriage, but she chose to explore with a millionaire. Her expression shifted from a damsel in distress to a cold-hearted schemer, and that's when she revealed something to me. Oh, you won't believe what happened. Next, I didn't come for anything during the divorce. I should have received alimony or at least half of the money from selling the house, but I chose to let it go. However, that can change now. I had enough. Maybe I threw a few curse words her way. Who wouldn't? But that was the last time I'd give her any benefit of the doubt. Once I got home, I promptly blocked her on all social media apps. What worries me, though, is what she might do next. Could she come after me for money after all these years? Should I consult a lawyer? Well, I'm pleased to report that absolutely nothing happened. She was all talk, no action, just to err on the side of caution. I did consult a lawyer. Sort of a colleague's brother happens to work for a law firm, and he informed me that in our state, an ex-partner can't come after alimony once the original divorce case has been settled. Even if she did get a lawyer, she didn't have a leg to stand on. Besides, she lacks the funds to pursue a legal case. I must give her credit for trying, but she won't be fooling me again. I've blocked her number and all social media apps. Of course, living in a small town means it's nearly impossible to completely avoid hearing about someone. No matter how hard you try to distance yourself, someone else will inevitably bring up what they're up to. I heard she moved upstate to stay with an old high school friend. Thankfully, she won't be around to insert herself into my life any longer. If she wants to play games, she'll have to find a new target on my end. We're gearing up for a summer vacation. Kara and I have both managed to book a few weeks off in August. We've put down a deposit on an RV and plan to travel around the state exploring different campsites. Some might call us crazy for hitting the road with a baby, but we're excited for the adventure. We spent the last 3 weeks traveling and exploring the state. I was surprised at how well our baby handled the journey. On our way back, we stopped at a diner off the highway. It wasn't the fanciest place, but hunger made us less picky. After being seated and placing our orders, I excused myself to use the restroom while washing my hands. I heard some commotion outside. It sounded like a manager reprimanding an employee. The manager mentioned it was the third complaint about the employee that week alone. Apparently she had given a 4-year-old hot sauce instead of ketchup, and then a voice I recognized sounded out. I couldn't quite place it. It was Olivia apologizing to the manager and vowing to improve. Normally, I would have waited outside the restroom for their conversation to end. As there's no need to add to an employee's humiliation, however, this was different. I wanted to see what unfolded as I was drying my hands. I heard her manager admonishing her for being irresponsible and lazy. He gave her a final warning, stating that one more mistake would cost her job. The look on Olivia's face when she saw me step out of the restroom is something I'll never forget. I probably was the last person she expected to see when her manager issued that ultimatum. I didn't say anything to her, but her manager seemed slightly embarrassed that a customer had overheard his reprimand. He came to our table to apologize and offered both Kara and me a complimentary dessert. While I hadn't expected much from that diner, the free pie and witnessing my ex-wife held accountable for her actions were worth it. I'll definitely leave that place with a positive review. My focus is shifting toward my family and career from here on out. I think she got exactly what she deserved, right where she belongs. If you have your own Olivia story, feel free to share it in the comments below.